Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another post-fight reaction. A dominant and commanding performance by William Zepeda to capture the WBC lightweight title against Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach, a very, very tough challenge on paper, but it did not turn out that way because it was a commanding 117 to 111, 117 to 111, 118 to 110 victory in favor of William Zapeda, and one hell of a performance by him. Me personally, I did score at 117, 111. My scorecard will be up on the screen so you can see which rounds I gave to each fighter. Now, the asterisks are just there to show you which rounds I thought were close. And to be fair, the first probably 4 rounds were very close. I think those first 4 rounds, you probably could have swayed basically all 4 of them either way. The first rounds are always close. The second one was close. The third one, it was close, but you started seeing Zapeda really take more control. Same with the fourth one. And then from the fourth round on, you're really trying hard to give Lamont Roach Jr. a round because it was dominance from William Zapeda. Just the constant activity, constant pressure, constantly letting his hands fly, not allowing Lamont Roach Jr. to move around the ring, pushing him up against the ropes, capturing him in corners, and Lamont Roach Jr. was out of ideas. And hey, you know what? For all you guys in the comments that say I know everything about fuck all, well, and for Lamont Roach Jr., although he did a very, very good job against Tank Davis, and although he did a very good job against Isaac Pitbull Cruz, he will not be able to handle the high amount of pressure and high amount of activity that will not stop from start to finish from William Zapeda. And therefore, my prediction in this fight is a William Zapeda win. I don't believe he stops Lamont Roach Jr., but I do believe he gets a unanimous decision victory. How about that? How about that? I called it during the week, during the preview. I says William Zapeda will be too much for Lamont Roach Jr. to handle, although Lamont Roach Jr. was good against Isaac Pitbull Cruz. William Zapeda is just a much better activity fighter than what Isaac Pitbull Cruz is. And he showed it. He showed it here tonight. And I think it shows a lot of character from William Zapeda. All right. I know there's a lot of character when you talk about Lamont Roach Jr., back-to-back draws coming into this world title fight. But for William Zapeda to lose the fight to Shakur Stevenson the way he did, take a extended break from boxing, come back and take on a guy that fights a very similar style to Shakur Stevenson, obviously not to the level of Shakur, but very similar style, and put in that type of performance. It was very, very good by William Zapeda, and he was back to his old tricks. Like some of the stats that came out of this fight, by 9 rounds into this fight, William Zapeda had landed 164 punches. That was more punches landed on Lamont Roach Jr. than any of his former opponents have over the course of either a 10 or a 12-round fight. So you could see the type of level of activity from William Zapeda. You look at the other punch stats, and you've got Zapeda out-throwing Lamont Roach Jr. 884 to 591. Power landed 142 to 124. And this is the big one. This is the one that really shocked me. And it's the jabs landed 76 to 29. And coming into this fight, you're saying, all right, who needs to really establish a jab? And you're saying it needs to be Lamont Roach Jr. Out of both of these fighters, who's the jab more important for? And for me, it would be Lamont Roach Jr. because William Zapeda, he wants to be up in your face, in your grill, rip into your body, rip into your head, throwing power punches, and just constantly throwing punches. So if there's either fighter that needs to establish a jab, needs to be Lamont Roach Jr. because if Lamont Roach Jr. is able to establish a jab, that means he's keeping the distance and he's able to use his powerful right hand. But we didn't see any of that from Lamont Roach Jr. today, and he had a prime example. If he goes back and watches that fight with Shakur Stevenson versus William Zapeda, there's a clear outline and game plan to beat William Zapeda. But it just shows you the level. And I think when coming into this fight, everybody was comparing Shakur Stevenson's style and the way Shakur Stevenson handled William Zapeda with Lamont Roach Jr. and saying Lamont Roach Jr. is going to do it. And you're saying, well, for me, I was saying, well, Lamont Roach Jr. ain't Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson is one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world right now, and for me, could be one of the greatest boxers we've ever seen, providing his career goes the right way. It's going a bit off the rails right now at Zuffa, but Shakur Stevenson just has absolutely everything. And although Lamont Roach Jr. is a good boxer, he's not Shakur Stevenson. And you saw that today. He wasn't able to get off the ropes. He wasn't able to catch and counter. He wasn't able to defend against William Zapeda and use his movement well and use a shoulder roll well and do all the things that Shakur was able to do against William Zapeda to not only negate what Zepeda's trying to do, but also launch some offense from him as well. There was barely any offense at all tonight from about round 4 onwards from Lamont Roach Jr., and that's credit to what William Zapeda did. The constant output, but it's not just throwing punches for the sake of throwing punches. He mixes them up so well. The work to the body, then going upstairs and then going back to the body, ripping to the body. And you know what? He's so good at mixing up punches. It's not just, a couple of straight, jab, jab, straight. It's, all right, I'm going to rip to your body. Then there's going to be an uppercut. Then there's going to be a hook. Then there's going to be, a double jab. And you're looking at this and saying, this guy's an output fighter, but he's an output fighter with clear technical boxing skills, which something Pitbull Cruz doesn't have. Pitbull Cruz is almost a one-trick pony, and that's what they were all saying about William Zapeda coming into this fight. And I think he proved tonight that although that one trick he's very, very good at, and that is that engine and that gas tank, he parries up that engine and that gas tank with clear boxing technical ability, mixing up the punches, upstairs, downstairs. And I thought his defense was good as well today. I thought the footwork and the defense was good from William Zapeda. It's a clear improvement over the performance from Shakur. He probably looked at that and says, I need to improve my movement. I need to be able to catch these guys that are trying to get away from me. And today he was able to do that. He was able to circulate around Lamont Roach Jr., not allow him to leave the corner, not allow him to leave the ropes, and then keep piling on that pressure. And he didn't get caught as many times from counters as he did against Shakur Stevenson. There was good back movement as well from William Zapeda. Overall, just a very, very good performance by William Zapeda. Like I said, I did call it. Not only did I call it, I even told you it was going to be a unanimous decision victory. So, hell of a performance by William Zapeda. The other fight on the card was Raymond Murataya defeating Robson Conceição. That was via unanimous decision as well. 118 to 110, 119 to 109 times 2. It was a good performance by Raymond Murataya. It was a good performance. It wasn't great. It wasn't amazing. You're never going back and watching it. It was quite boring in parts. But it was a good performance by Raymond Murataya. I think when we looked at Raymond Murataya, I came into this fight saying, I want to see him stop Robson Conceição. Nobody's been able to do it, but I want to see him try and do it. And although he outboxed him clearly and won that fight by a mile, it wasn't... I thought his performance against Andy Cruz was better than the performance we saw today, which it should be the other way around. You should be getting better every time you fight. All right, you shouldn't, change levels back and forth. But I think a lot of it with Raymond Murataya is this division. I think 135 pounds hurts him trying to get to it. And then the fact that he's under IBF weight cuts, rehydrating hurts him as well. So he made it clear that he's going to be moving up to 140, and that's the right decision. He needs to be fighting at 140. And there's plenty of fights there. You can take on Dalton Smith for a world title. That won't be under IBF. You could take on Gary Antoine Russell. That won't be under IBF. And those are big fights. Or you do stay under IBF. The IBF title is vacant. Obviously, Richards and Hitchens vacated and hasn't been taken over. I think Lindolfo Delgado is number one contender for it. He might even be mandatory. I can't remember the ins and outs of what's happening for that belt. But at the moment, it is vacant. There's an IBF champion moving up. There's anybody that deserves that shot at that title, it's probably Raymond Murataya versus Lindolfo Delgado. I can't really remember. Biaslanov might be number 2 or number 3 in that division. But for Raymond Murataya, I want to see him move up. I want to see him maybe just feel a little bit more comfortable. I feel like when he first was sort of making waves at 135 pounds, you could see the power. But now that he's sort of outgrowing it, I feel like that power is decreasing with the fact that he's doing a weight cut. He's a big guy. You saw the size of him in there with Robson Conceição. Like, you even saw it with Andy Cruz. You could see how big Raymond Murataya is. And if he moves up, he's going to get bigger. And there's one big fight there. There is a massive fight sitting there that could be doable, could not be doable. We don't know what's going on, but we all know who it is. It's Shakur Stevenson. But that's the name we always hear. I didn't see anything tonight that tells me that Raymond Murataya beat Shakur Stevenson. If anything, after tonight's performance, I actually questioned where Andy Cruz sits because I thought Raymond Murataya was better against Andy Cruz, but Andy Cruz lost to Raymond Murataya, and Murataya really didn't look great at all today, and maybe Andy Cruz isn't this world beater that we all thought, so we're going to have to wait and see on that one. But good performance by Raymond Murataya. By far the best performance tonight was William Zapeda. It wasn't the greatest card. I thought on paper it was really going to be a nice card, but Curiel didn't really impress. Conwell didn't really impress. Ruben Muratella won by a mile, but didn't impress. But William Zapeda, underdog, impressive, more than impressive. And I think this guy here, now with that WBC title, who's going to take it off him? Who do you think's actually going to take this belt off him? Because that's a tough task for anybody. That is a tough task for anybody to have to stand there and depending on what your style is, either try and go 12 rounds at his pace or try and go 12 rounds like Shakur Stevenson did. And that is a tough, tough thing to do because Shakur Stevenson is elite. But unbelievable performance by William Zapeda. Lamont Roach back to the drawing board. It's now 2 draws and a loss, which, if there was a win at the end of it, it looks better, and then you start making justifications for the other 2 results. But now we're looking at a draw against Isaac Pitbull-Cruz, a loss against William Zapeda, and that draw against Tank Davis. Although, credit to him, Lamont Roach Jr., he won that fight against Tank Davis. I don't really care what the records say. He beat Tank Davis. I think a draw was fair against Isaac Pitbull-Cruz and a loss, but the way that he lost it today was a bit eye-opening, to be honest with you guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of the fight? Were you one of those people that picked Lamont Roach Jr.? Look, it was a close fight on paper coming into it, and I don't begrudge anybody that thought Lamont Roach Jr. was going to win it. I don't think anybody thought William Zapeda was going to win 8 rounds. All right, 9 rounds, 10 rounds, possibly in some people's scorecards, maybe even 11 rounds. I think that's where the surprising bit is, to go 10 rounds to 2, 9 rounds to 3 against Lamont Roach Jr. That is the impressive part of today's performance. Like, subscribe. I'm out of here, guys. See ya.